Hello, today I am going to do some ball rolling with you. You would need a ball like this, you will need a ball like this. This is quite soft, it's a gymnastic, they called them gymnastic balls. And I'll just show you, it says, I think GR is grade, and then 280 is what you want. I'll just show you. So you can see that. I do have some, but if not, you can find them online and I can give you a link. So first things first, this is for fascial release. So in between all the muscles, we've got these fascial layers. So think of it as self-massage. So we're going to sit here on the ball to start with. Now, this is right underneath the pelvic floor. You're not on the tailbone, okay? So you're nowhere near the tailbone. You're just directly underneath you. If you had a straight line up through the top of the head, all the way down, that's where you would have the ball. And I'm just going to turn to the side because you might not be able to see where that is exactly. So not anywhere near my tailbone. And I'm just sitting here on the ball. And what happens here is we can do some breath work, but also it's going to release off those hamstrings. So without doing too much, it can be incredibly effective. So we'll just soften here through the hands, palms facing upwards, soften through the shoulders. And we're going to take some deep breaths in through the nose, and then we're going to exhale out through the nose. And as we breathe, we might close our eyes just to internalize. We might have a soft gaze somewhere, perhaps out the window, or somewhere in our room. And we just notice the breath at the back of the throat. And as you listen to it, it sounds like the waves of the sea. A lovely, long, gentle inhale and a lovely, long, gentle exhale. And then we start to notice the breath into the chest. So we think not just about the front, but underneath the arms and into the sides of the ribs and all the way to the back of the rib cage as well. Just keeping nice and relaxed, lifting up through the top of the head, softening at the jaw. And then we see if we can get the breath to reach into the tummies now as well. So really nice deep breaths into the body, and this will help to get the diaphragm moving as well. And then what you'll do on your exhale is pull up with the pelvic floor and draw the tummy button in towards you. And I can't demo that at the moment, but on the exhale, feel the zip upwards and inwards. Okay, and of course, if you wanted to stay there longer or take it into a meditation, this would be a really lovely seated position with lots of length of spine and space in the body. Okay, so we're going to go back to rolling now. So lifting up, I'm now going to go back to the hamstrings. So we're going to focus on one bum cheek to begin with, hands behind. Okay, and just we'll circle around the hips first. Now, we want to stay on the muscular area. Avoid the tailbone again. And these circles can be big, they can be small. You just see where you want to go with it. And we're having to use our shoulders, so there's a little bit of strength going on there. And through wrists and palms as well. And hopefully that's okay. This can be done with a blue spiky as well. I'll show you that, which is a little bit more intense, but this feels lovely and soft, and this will be nice when we take it into the hamstring. So let's keep the breath work going. We might choose to do some exhales out of the mouth. That's fine as well. And this soft ball isn't as intense as the spiky. So you might not feel too much tightness. Just use it as a lovely relaxing tool. And then let's come on to the hamstring. So this is quite tricky. We need to sit up on the ball, okay? And I've got the ball here onto the hamstring attachment. So it sort of kisses into the glute, but it's actually on the hamstring. And I've got a straight leg here. Now we're just going to hold it here. And I'm going to show you some other ways that you can hold your body. So if you've got a chair, or like me, something like a table nearby, radiator, then you can have a little bit of added support so your spine is nice and tall. Or you might choose to pop the knee down. And I'm just going to turn around so that you can see that it's like a hurdle. Well, a hurdle leg would be sort of like this, a little bit wider. But a hero leg that we do in yoga is with the ankle on the outer side. Okay, so I'll just go back so you can see the ball. So I'm going to go for that hero leg. But if that feels uncomfortable on your foot, come up with the bent knee and hold on to something. So now that I'm on that attachment, I'm just going to do a little bit of movement here from side to side. And we've got 3 hamstring muscles. And you might find that you have lovely long flexibility through some, and then you might have one that just gets incredibly tight. So as you transfer across the 3, you might feel some tightness as you go. Okay. And then the ball can travel down the leg. I probably would go just sort of halfway. You don't have to go too much further. That is so that you can stay nice and upright and keep that spine nice and tall as you do the movement. And these can be circles, these can be side to side, or you might choose to hold. And then we can flex the foot as well, and we can tilt the toe out and feel more on the lateral side. So it ends up being a bit of a yogic stretch, but on a ball effectively. Breathing with it here. And I actually find hamstrings are easier to do on these balls than they are on rollers, or in fact the spiky. So they can be a really good option if you get tight hamstrings. And then we can go with the toe up, and again see if we've got a little bit more hinge forward, keeping the spine tall, shoulders nice and relaxed. You might get that kind of sort of fuzzy feeling down into the foot as well. So that'll be your fascia line releasing. And there's a line that goes from the bottom of the foot all the way up the posterior chain, which is the calf, hamstring, up into the glutes, all the way up into the back. And then it actually attaches here at the top of the head here. So by releasing off feet and calves and hamstrings, it can make us feel really good, especially if you're sat at a desk or through sports, your hamstrings are particularly tight, let's say. Okay, so let's go for the other side. So I'm just going to bring my other leg out. I'm actually going to spin round, but you wouldn't have to. And then we should be able to just playfully come back onto the other glute. There's a lot of maneuverability of the body with these balls, but it's also giving you a full body workout as you maneuver as well. And the more practice you have, the easier it gets. So we're just going to circle around the glute, avoiding the tailbone, just because we don't want to press up against the tailbone and make it sore. We don't really need to go there. Just stay in the muscular area, making the circles big or small or holding, not as intense as the spiky, which is kind of a nice thing in a way. Just prepping those muscles. That's it before we go into the hamstring. And there are other ways that you can roll your glutes when you're not using your wrists. But I'll save that for another time. I'll stick on the blue ball for now. Just go where you need to breathe into that space, massage that area. Okay, so now we're going to come up, and I'm going to do the same this side, just to recap, but so that we've got the same length of time. So so this would be my glute area, and this is where my hamstring here attaches. And it's so that you end up with a straight leg without locking out the knee. That's quite important. We might be holding on to something. Okay, and this bent leg here for a little bit of support, sitting up nice and upright. That's really key. Okay, you don't really want to be in this position because it's not going to get you anywhere. And then you can hurdle the leg if you want to, which is slightly wide. Just watch out for, spin round, just watch out for this kind of action with the foot. That's not going to feel great. Okay, so it's better if you can hero the leg, which we do a lot in yoga with the ankle just sat on the outer side of the hip. Back I go. Okay, so we're on that attachment. We've got our nice tall posture. You can see my back's nice and tall. It's not slouching anyway, and I'm not taking it through the middle back. That can be a really bad habit. I do myself. So lift up, and then let's just sway here from side to side. And it's really interesting how one side can feel so different to the other as well. And it's just having that awareness is really good. So you might pay a little bit more attention to the tighter side. I need a red ball really, or I need lighter leggings. But I'm pretty sure you can see what I'm doing. Okay, and then I'm going to get it to more of the middle of the leg. So just kind of position yourself a little bit further back. That's it. I'll just take my hand to my hip so you can see that. And again, I'm holding on, leaning a little bit more forward as long as the back is straight, and seeing how this feels in the sort of central area here. I'm not worried about foot for the moment, but we'll do that in shortly. Breathe with it here. And then we might choose to hold, flex the foot, lean a little bit more, just like we do in yoga. Relax shoulders as much as possible, holding on for a little bit of extra support if we need. I've got a little bit of shake going on down to my foot here as well. And then turning out to become a little bit onto the lateral side. Oh, I can feel that. Breathe into it here, see how you are. Leaning forward or maybe easing off a little bit. And then back to center, and then we'll push back up to the hips. That's it. And then we can just release here with the legs. Okay, so let's go on to the side of the hip now. So it's like we're going to do a side plank. So it's going to be good core strength and shoulder strength. Again, quite a lot of balance involved to maneuver here. Okay, takes a bit of practice. But come on down and come onto the side of the hip. Now I've bent the other leg for support, and then my shoulder, I'm not sinking into it. It is as if I'm doing a side plank. And I'm just going to do some circles here on the outer side of the glute medius kind of area, TFL, that kind of place. Or to be honest, you can just go where you like. You might go a little bit more into the back of the glute area because you need to. And you might come a little bit more into the side, and we will go into the front, but just not yet. So feeling into the side of the hip to begin with. That's it. And this can be done with rollers as well, with a regular roller too. But I'm just going to focus on the ball. So all the way around, and then just see if you find a tender area. I just have. So we'll breathe into it here. Nice full body breaths. Exhale out of the mouth or nose. And then moving again. And I'm bending this leg to help me with the movement as well. It's more glute focused, glute medius focused at the moment. And you might get a little bit of waist. We avoid the bottom floating rib, but to be honest, we shouldn't really be anywhere near it. Just see where you need to go. Okay, and then we're going to come onto the front of the hip. So what's quite nice is we can stick with this same leg and then just transfer to the different section of the leg, and then we'll obviously switch sides. So we can roll all the way around. That's it. So that the knee comes down. We end up in this front plank position, and we're on the front of the hip. But I'm actually going to change legs so that you can see the visual, the ball. Okay, so you stay on that leg. I'm going to flip over so you can see. Okay, and my other leg is out to the side, which I think you can see as well. Something under the knee if you need to on the bent leg that's out. So now we are in the hip flexor area. We can kiss up against the pelvic bone, the front of the pelvis. And we've got where the quadriceps intersect. And we've got the TFL as well, which links to the ITB. And this can get incredibly tight. This is on the front, think front but side area. And this is muscular, and ITB being like a strap. So just releasing off the TFL can help release off the ITB. Lots of people have tight ITB. So we've got the slightly more lateral side, and you can see I'm moving a little bit up and down here. And you can do circles also. And then you've got higher up into the front of the pelvis. So I'm not going to go there, but you can do a little bit of digestional work into the lower part of the pelvis at the front as well. And you want to start on the right, and then you want to do the left. Okay, but I'm not going to go into that at the moment. We'll just stick with the legs. And then see what happens as you come into the crease of the hip, and you can turn that foot out slightly so you can see. I'll move back a bit. So you can see that I've gone into more of a plie shape with that foot, and I'm just in the crease here, of where the groin is, where the hip intercepts. And also you've got all your lymph nodes in there as well. So really good stimulation here for detoxifying the system. Taking it slow. Anything that feels like a sharp pain or too uncomfortable, just skirt across it. You don't need to go there. Go to the muscular areas that feel good for you, massaging into the area. Okay. And then from here, I mean, you could stay there. I just need to move a little bit on my mat. You could stay there if you wanted to release off the muscles a bit more. You might do a shoulder rest. So forehead here down to hands, letting the leg go and just sinking and breathing into it. Actually, that feels quite nice. Or we can get a little bit more into the quad. So quad being 4, and then we've got the push up the thigh. We've got the more inside of the thigh with the plie position of the leg. And we've got the more lateral, which runs up next to the ITB. So it's not directly on the ITB, it's on the side. And we can come up the side, and it might be as we come up the leg, we find points along the way that need a little bit of extra TLC. And these balls are softer than the average roller. And softness can be good for really getting us to melt here into the tops of the legs. Okay. And I've just hit a pressure point, or it's basically lactic acid buildup. And you know, when you go for a massage, mostly they refer to it as knots. And you might get something similar and choose to just sit with it and breathe. And then continue. Always finish with a push upwards, because that's how we want to push the toxins up, so they come out of the system rather than pushing them down into the legs. Okay, coming up now, and we'll work on the other side. Okay, so I changed leg, but you should be now moving on to your other leg. So I'm going to turn and come onto the side of the hip here. And we've, can be a bit tricky. One leg bent, one leg straight. Let's massage here into the side of the hip and see how this one feels. So we stayed on one leg at the side and then the front, and then we transfer to the other leg, side and front. I've moved around a bit just for visuals for you guys. So see where you want to go with it. A little bit of a balancing act. Obviously, we're balancing on the other arm now. You might go, oh, do you know what? I need to go a little bit more into that glute area. Just moving yourself around. And then I almost found a tight bit, and I was going to stop and wait and breathe. You do that if you need to. Avoiding the lower rib, but not really anywhere near it. We can feel the pelvis, we can work up against the pelvis. That's fine, but it will basically be muscular. Everything's muscular. Seeing if one side feels tighter than the other. And then we come onto the front of the leg. So hopefully we can, I'm just moving because so what you can see, but hopefully we can just pop this leg over and then transfer here to the front and onto our forearms. Okay, but I'm going to switch over to the other leg so you can see the ball. So here we go. down onto forearms. The other leg is out at a right angle, something under your knee if you need to. Okay, so let's have a look at this area here. Shoulders are getting a lovely warm up still, strength happening there. Head's just looking low or forward of your mat. So we can come up to the front of the pelvis here. You can do a little bit of digestional work, which is really just kind of holding it on the inside of the thigh. But I'm more interested in the quad and the hip flexors today. So you're going to feel where that very top of the leg goes into the pelvis. And you're going to see how that feels more on the outer side. Circles back and forth, side to side, any way you want to go. The plie position of the foot for a little bit more on the inner side. That also gives a hip rotation. So interestingly, I'm feeling that quite tight in my glute here as I rotate outwards. That's no bad thing. And then just feeling all the way around. Oh, okay, I've just hit a really, really tender spot. You might get the same. It needs a bit of time, so I'm going to lower down, okay, and breathe for about 3. Okay, so that's just an example of if you hit a tender area yourselves. Some rolls again, see where you need to go. Perhaps a little bit more into the crease where the hip meets where the leg meets the pelvis. And maybe a little bit more onto the top here, can be quite high up. And then onto the outer side as well. You might sort of end up in a bit more of a side plank position. And then we're going to take it here to the middle of the leg. So pull yourself forward. That's it. And then let's start some circles around this area here. 4 muscles to the quad. And we're going to focus on 3 angles of the leg. So we've got the push upwards, and then we've got the more outer side. As we turn the toe in, we might end up in a bit of a side plank at this point. And then have you got any knotted areas here? If you're not directly on ITB, which is actually quite a good thing because that can be really quite harsh work. Okay. Do we need some circles? Do we need to hold it? See what you feel you need. And then I'm just going to go on the more of the inner side. So turning the foot out and working up the inner side of the leg. Just going where you feel you need to. I found my pressure point again, trigger point again. Breathing into it. And I've got quite a soft tummy at the moment, but you guys can think about that core engagement as you do the work as well. So it ends up a little bit of a shoulder workout. So lovely and massaging for the legs, but strength in shoulders. And then the last little bit I'm going to show you with the upper half of the leg is another one for the inner thigh. Okay, not easy to do. So we take the leg out at right angles, like so, so that it's at the top of the knee. And we're in this supported side plank. So I'm balancing on that knee, and I've got a plank position happening. And I'm just moving here up the inner thigh. I'll just come into a bit more space over here. Coming up the inner thigh and just seeing if I've got any tightness going on here. Some circles. And you might end up straightening the leg. You might end up bending the leg. See how you get on. And you could spend as long as you needed on this. And then you might end up a little bit more in that sort of plie position that you did earlier. But also try at the right angles as well. It can feel a little stingy as well, so just take it steady. And then it could be that, you know, that's when you end up working onto the top of the leg again. Okay, so I'm just going to do the other side. So if you've done the same timing as me, you're nice and balanced. So here we go, onto the knee, side plank position, some little circles here at the knee joint, and then start working up the inner thigh, keeping that right angles to start with. Breathing into it here. And then working a little bit more up the inner thigh, maybe taking more of that plie position. And then just seeing if you've got any trigger points. I've just found one here, so I'm just going to hold and breathe. My toe is just rested on the floor for a little bit of extra support, but I'm still in that plank position. And then a few more little rolls here. This one I'd say is probably the harshest of all of them that we've done today. And then push back up, and it might be that you come onto the top of the hip again for some circles. And then from here, you could either roll your shoulders, but I'll do that in another video because your shoulders might need, after all of that strength, a little bit of a relax. But if you were just focusing on hips, you'd probably just take a Shavasana position now with legs out and away, and then ankles rolled out, and then just take your hands to your tummy and breathe here into the body. And I'm just going to come up. And you could turn the video off and just have a good 10 minutes, just letting your body rest after doing all that rolling. Or you could go out for a run, do some gardening, anything active, because you're nicely warmed up in the hips. Okay, thank you. Namaste.